The story I'd like to share with you today is called Harry's Promise. I wrote this after an experience I had with my son when he was just a little baby, and you'll probably see the connections. The story is called Harry's Promise, and it goes like this. Once upon a hilltop, there was a man who lived with his wife, whose name was Annie, in an old farmhouse, and they had a son. And one day, the husband, he said to his wife, "Hey, Annie, I think I'm going to take the baby out for a little stroll." His wife, who was working at her desk, she said, "That'd be a nice idea, Harry." So Harry walked over and he picked up the baby and he put the baby, outside. He went out and he put the baby in the stroller, and they lived out in the country, and he pushed the stroller down along their dirt driveway, and there was a gravel road, and Harry pushed the stroller onto the gravel road, and then just not far from the driveway, that gravel road came right to the apex of the mountaintop where they lived, and he pushed that stroller right to that spot where the road dropped off to go down into the valley. Well, Harry stopped, and he could tell the wind was blowing, so he looked down and he said, "Well, Poochie Cheeks, I don't want you to get cold." So he pushed the blankets up around the baby's shoulders, and then Harry looked across that valley, and he could see for miles and the woodlots and the hillsides, and he just thought how beautiful it was, and he raised his arms and he said, "It's so beautiful and peaceful living out in the country. Nothing ever really seems to go wrong." And that's when he heard his wife's voice call, "Harry! Harry!" Harry turned around, looked over his shoulder. Down by the driveway, it was his wife. She was calling, "Harry, it's for you, the telephone." Well, Harry pushed the stroller over to the side of the road and he said, "What about the baby?" And his wife called, "Bring her." But with the wind blowing through the trees, Harry thought his wife said, "Leave her." Harry thought, "Well, I don't know about leaving the baby out here, but, my wife said it was okay, so it must be all right. And, nobody comes down this road anyway, and it'll just be a quick phone call." So Harry had the baby in the stroller, and he left her right there, and then he took off back to the house. Well, his wife was up on the porch. She was holding the door open so her husband could get to the phone a little faster. But as Harry came up closer to the porch, his wife began to look at him, wondering where the baby was. As a matter of fact, she started staring at his pocket. Maybe the baby was in his pocket. And his wife said, "Harry, where's the baby?" And Harry replied, "Oh, Annie, like you told me, I just left the baby in the stroller." His wife said, "Harry, I didn't say leave the baby. I said bring the baby." And Harry replied, "Oh, that's okay. It'll just be a quick phone call." So his wife went back to work at her desk. Harry walked over and he picked up the phone. He said, "Yeah, Harry here." Well, when the guy on the other end of the phone started talking, Harry was looking out the window, which was right there by the phone. That was in the old days where you couldn't get far from the phone because there was a cord attached to the wall. But Harry was looking out the window, and then he could tell the wind was really blowing because he could see the diapers on the clothesline blowing in the wind like the sails of a ship. That's when Harry saw the family dog come running around the side of the house. The family dog ran right over to the clothesline. Then the family dog leaped up into the air, snatched one of Harry's T-shirts in its teeth, pulled Harry's T-shirt off the clothesline, and then began to shake the T-shirt around in the grass. It was having a good time. Normally, Harry would have been very upset with the dog, but that's one of those T-shirts that he didn't wear very often, because it had something silly written on it, like, "Don't spread toxic waste on your hot dog bun." But when Harry was looking out at the diapers, he thought, "Oh my gosh, look at that wind. The wind! The baby in the stroller!" Harry dropped the telephone. He took off down the driveway. When he got to the end of the driveway, he looked. He saw the stroller right there at the crest of the hill where he had left it. And that's when he stopped and sighed and took a deep breath. Whew! But just then, a big wind came along. It filled up the canopy of the stroller, and it began to push the stroller all by itself until Harry saw the stroller roll up and then take off down the hill. Harry screamed, "Oh no!" Harry ran as fast as he could until he could see where the road was dropping off. He could see the stroller going down the road, picking up speed. Harry began to run as fast as he could run, but he couldn't run too fast because he knew if he fell down on the gravel, he'd never catch up. He also began to yell, "Help! Help!" He didn't know who was around. He just yelled anyway. "Help! Help! My baby's in that stroller! Somebody stop the stroller!" And that's when a great big old furry woodchuck, who had been eating some dandelions on the side of the road, heard Harry's voice. The big old woodchuck, the herbivore, walked over to the side of the road, and it looked up and it saw the stroller coming. Well, when Harry saw the woodchuck, Harry began to yell, "Hey, my baby's in that stroller! Stop the stroller! Stop the stroller!" But when the woodchuck realized that it was Harry coming down the road, the woodchuck called, "You think I'm going to help you, Harry? What about my brother, Harry, who went into your garden last summer to eat some of your good, sweet, organic carrots? But did you put up a fence to keep my brother out? No, Harry. You took a shotgun. You shot my brother, Harry, just because he was eating your carrots. You think I'm going to help you now? Forget it." Harry was running as fast as he could. He said, "Hey, I'm a busy man. I didn't have time to put up a fence just because of a woodchuck." And the woodchuck said, "Well, forget it, Harry." And the woodchuck turned around and went back and ambled into the bushes. Well, Harry was picking up speed, but he could see that stroller was picking up speed. But now the stroller was headed to the place on the road where there was a great big limb of an old ash tree that spread out across the road. He could see that the stroller was going to go under that limb. Up in the limb on the branches was a raccoon, sound asleep. Harry began to yell, "Wake up! Wake up! My baby's in that stroller! Stop the stroller!" The mother raccoon was awakened by Harry's voice. When she looked up, she saw the stroller coming. She also saw that it was Harry. Harry yelled, "My baby's in that stroller! Stop the stroller!" The mother raccoon replied, "You think I'm going to help you, Harry? What about my baby, Harry, who went down to the pond last summer to eat some fish? But you know what, Harry? My baby died because of you. You poured the weed killer into the weeds because you wanted to get rid of the weeds next to the pond. Well, you got rid of the weeds, Harry, but then the weed killer got into the water, and then the weed killer got into the fish, and then my baby went down to eat some fish, and then my baby died because of you." Harry said, "Hey, how was I supposed to know that the weed killer was going to go through the grass and then get into the water and then get into the fish and kill a raccoon?" And the mother raccoon replied, "Well, maybe you ought to read the label on the cans, Harry, and learn something about ecology and how things are interconnected, and stop thinking about yourself." And then she went back to sleep. Well, Harry, he was running still fast as he could, and that's when he saw that stroller go right out from under the limb and heading down the road. But when Harry got to the tree limb, he stopped, and he said, okay, I'm sorry, I apologize, I promise. I won't just think of myself. I'll think of all the creatures on the planet and how everything's interconnected, and I'm never gonna spray another insect with an aerosol can. And next time I step on an ant, I'm gonna apologize. And I'm gonna join the Save the Seahorse Committee. At Christmas time, I'm gonna sing Christmas carols to the dogs and the cats. And I'm gonna start reading the labels on all the cans, that's for sure. And you know what? I don't tell anybody this, but I keep a little rubber duck in the shower. It's kind of like my little thing. I protect me from... Well, anyway, I'm going to go to my old sleeping bag, and I'm going to take some flowers out of my sleeping bag. Not flowers, feathers. I'm going to take the feathers out of my sleeping bag, and I'm going to glue them to that rubber duck. Quack, quack. I promise. Well, just then, Harry saw the stroller hit the bottom of the hill. But Harry saw the stroller spin around. Then the stroller flipped onto its side. Harry saw the baby fly out of the stroller. Harry yelled, "Oh no!" Harry came running down, and when he got to where the stroller was, he thought for sure he was going to see the baby and maybe screaming and crying because it had been thrown from the stroller, and he didn't know what to expect. But when he looked around, he couldn't see his baby at all. He thought, well, where'd it go? And Harry stepped off to the road into the edge where the woods and the flowers come together, and when he stepped into the shadows of the woods, he didn't hear a baby crying. He heard the sounds that a baby makes when it's being loved and cared for. Harry thought, this is really odd. And when Harry stepped into the shadows a little further, there, hanging upside down from her prehensile tail, was a mother possum. Cradled in her arms was Harry's baby. Harry walked over. He said, "Thank you very much for catching and taking care of my baby." And Harry said, "Look, I meant all those things I promised. I won't just think of myself. I'll think of all the creatures on the planet." And the mother possum replied, "That'd be nice, Harry." Well, Harry took his baby and he put it back in the stroller. He rolled it back up to the house, and when he picked up the baby and he walked inside the house, his wife, who was still working at her desk, she was working on the final draft of her PhD dissertation. When she saw Harry come in, she said, "Well, Harry, did you enjoy your stroll?" And Harry replied, he put the baby down. He said, "Annie, you wouldn't believe it. The stroller took off down the hill going about 90 miles an hour. The stroller hit the bottom of the hill. The stroller spun around. The baby went flying out. And our baby would have been seriously injured. But a mother possum, she caught the baby. She held on to it. And she gave me the baby back safe and sound." Yeah. And his wife said, "Harry, where do you come up with this stuff?" Thank you.